the stranger with no words. The sun had barely risen over the dry Wyoming hills, brushing golden light across the sparse, wind-torn landscape. Dust swirled lazily along the gravel road leading to the crumbling fence of the Hollow Creek Ranch. The house stood alone, bruised by time and silence, much like the girl who lived inside it. Emily Rosehart was only 23, but her eyes had already learned to hide pain. The once vibrant ranch girl had grown quiet, her body bearing bruises not caused by falls from horseback, but by the cruel hand of a man, her stepfather, Clyde Mathers. The townsfolk knew something wasn't right up at the ranch, but nobody asked questions. Not in these parts. They called it none of our business. Emily had long stopped expecting help. Her mother had passed 2 years back, leaving her behind with a man who saw her more as a burden than family. She rose before dawn every day, tending to the cattle, fixing broken hinges, doing the work of 3 men. Her hands were calloused, her shoulders tense. And still, Clyde found reasons to hurt her. The morning was still and cold when the sound of hooves broke the silence. She was feeding the last of the chickens when she spotted him, tall, cloaked in dust, a wide-brimmed hat shading his eyes, riding a weathered black horse. He didn't speak. He didn't wave. He just sat there, watching. Emily froze, a hand resting on the fence post, unsure if she should be scared or relieved. "You lost, mister," she called out cautiously. The man dismounted in a slow, deliberate motion. He was lean, with a coat that had seen better days and boots that spoke of long miles. A silver star pin to his chest caught the morning light. But this wasn't any sheriff she recognized. Still silent, he walked to the porch and tied his horse to the rail. He pulled out a folded paper from his coat pocket and handed it to her. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. It was a wanted poster, and on it Clyde's face. Her breath caught. She looked up at the man, stunned. "Who sent you?" No answer. His silence was eerie, but not threatening. Instead, there was something about his stillness that felt steady. "Safe. My name's Emily," she said cautiously. "Emily Hart. That man on the poster. He lives here." The cowboy nodded once. Just then, the front door slammed open. Clyde's bulky frame filled the doorway, his eyes narrowing as he spotted the stranger. "What's this?" he growled. "Emily, who the hell is this?" The cowboy didn't flinch. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a deputy's badge. Clyde's face changed. "You got no right stepping on my land," he spat. "You ain't from around here." The cowboy didn't answer. Instead, he slowly unbuckled the leather strap on his holster. "A quiet message. Try me." Clyde glared at him, then looked to Emily. "You call this on me? After all I'd done for you." "You beat me," she whispered. "That's what you did." Silence followed. A long, painful silence. Suddenly, Clyde lunged forward, but the cowboy moved faster. A single gunshot rang out. Clyde collapsed on the porch, clutching his leg, screaming in pain. The cowboy stood tall, smoke curling from his revolver. Not a kill shot, just enough to end the threat. Emily stood frozen, shaking. You saved me," she whispered. The cowboy holstered his weapon, still silent. Then he turned and walked to his horse, as if ready to leave. "Wait!" Emily ran after him. "You can't just go." He paused. "You didn't even tell me your name." He looked at her for a long moment, then took a piece of paper from his coat. He scribbled a name. Colt Maddox. A man of few words. Or perhaps none at all. That night, the sheriff from the next town overcame to collect Clyde, who was now under federal arrest for a string of crimes stretching across 3 counties. Emily told her story. The cowboy said nothing. Afterward, Colt returned to the edge of the ranch, where his horse stood ready. Emily followed him. "You don't have to leave," she said quietly. "You could stay a while. There's always work here, and I don't think I want to be alone." Colt looked at her, expression unreadable. He seemed like a man built for the road, solitary, untouchable. Still, he nodded once and walked back toward the barn. Emily watched, stunned. She had expected him to leave, but he never did. Not that night. Not the next. Not for weeks. He didn't say much, but he repaired the fences, fed the horses, helped restore the forgotten dignity of Hollow Creek Ranch. And slowly, something else began to take root. Trust. A past that never let go. Spring settled over Hollow Creek Ranch with a gentleness Emily hadn't felt in years. The fields were greener, the sky brighter, and for the first time in a long while, the nights didn't echo with fear. Colt Maddox, silent, steady, and watchful, had brought more than protection. He brought peace. He still spoke little, often communicating through nods, gestures, or a rare glance that said more than words ever could. Emily had grown used to silence. She didn't need words to know when he was angry, calm, or watching over her with quiet intensity. By day, they worked side by side, mending the old barn, coaxing life back into the soil, and rounding up the cattle that had nearly been forgotten. By night, they shared quiet meals under the stars. Slowly, Emily started to heal, not just from her bruises, but from years of being unseen. But peace is a fragile thing. One morning, while checking the fence line near the southern edge of the property, Emily found Colt kneeling in the dirt, staring at hoof prints, fresh ones. He stood slowly, eyes scanning the horizon. "What is it?" she asked, worry creeping into her voice. He looked at her, then pointed to the tracks. "Not ours?" she guessed. He shook his head. Later that day, she saw him cleaning his gun. Something was coming. That evening, they sat on the porch as the wind shifted. Emily held a warm cup of coffee, watching the last light fade behind the hills. Colt leaned against the railing, hat low over his eyes. "Was it true?" she asked softly. "What they said about you?" He looked up slowly. "That you used to be a bounty hunter, a real one." He didn't answer right away, but after a moment, he nodded. "What made you stop?" A long pause. Then, quietly, he spoke, his voice rough and deep like it hadn't been used in years. "Too much blood. Not enough justice." Emily stared at him. "You can talk." He gave the faintest of smiles. "Only when it matters." She smiled back, but it faded quickly. "Do you think they're coming?" "Friends of Clyde." Colt's jaw tightened. "Maybe." The next day confirmed it. 2 riders arrived just after noon. Hard men, armed and bitter-looking. Emily watched from the barn as Colt stepped forward to meet them. "Looking for a man named Maddox," the first one said, his voice oily. Colt said nothing. "Heard he put a bullet in a friend of ours." "Clyde Mathers." Colt's hand rested calmly on his hip. The second man sneered. "Heard he's hiding on this ranch. Maybe the girl's protecting him." Emily felt her heart race. "Step aside," the first one ordered. "We'll look around." But Colt didn't move. "You don't want this fight," he said, voice low. "You alone?" the man asked. Colt didn't answer. A standoff stretched between them like a drawn wire. Then the second man reached for his gun. It was over in seconds. 2 shots, fast, clean. The men dropped where they stood, weapons barely drawn. Colt's gun smoked at his side. Emily ran to him, heart pounding. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head. But something had changed. He looked out over the horizon like he was expecting more trouble. And maybe he was. That night, Emily found him packing his saddlebag. "No," she whispered. "You can't." "I have to," he said simply. "I trusted you. I let you into my life, my home. And now you're just going to disappear?" Colt looked at her, really looked. "I brought danger here." "You ended danger here," she replied. He shook his head. "There will be more. There always is." "Then let me fight with you," she said, stepping closer. "I'm not the scared girl I was when you rode in. You showed me how to stand tall. You gave me back my life." He looked away, the pain in his eyes deeper than anything she'd seen. "People get hurt around me. People get saved too." He hesitated, then stepped forward, gently taking her hand. "I've lost everything once," he said. "I don't want to lose this." "Then stay," she said. For a moment, the night held its breath. Then he nodded. Months passed. The ranch thrived. Emily was no longer the beaten girl hiding behind her chores. She rode with confidence, held her head high in town, and ran Hollow Creek like the woman she was born to be. Colt remained by her side, not as a hired hand or a passing stranger, but as her partner. They never needed to say the words aloud. It was understood in the way they moved together, worked together, stood together. One autumn evening, they stood watching the sunset from the porch, hands clasped. "You ever think about leaving?" she asked. "I used to," he said. "Not anymore." You could have gone that first night, she whispered. I thought you would. I almost did, he admitted, but I couldn't. You looked at me like I was worth staying for. You were, she said. You still are. For the first time, he smiled fully, freely. And then, quietly, he whispered something she never expected to hear. I love you, Emily. Tears welled in her eyes. I love you too, Colt Maddox. They kissed under the setting sun, two broken souls who'd found healing not in words, but in each other.